Hello once again and welcome to Herd Immunity News. Today we were contacted by a member of the criminal courts in the southeast of England, and they were expressing their deep concern over what's happening right now in our justice system. This gentleman reported to us at Herd Immunity News that youngsters in the juvenile system, that's those from 17 to 10 years of age, are being let off in record numbers. This is partly due to the fact that our prison system is beyond breaking point. We have currently in the United Kingdom 95,000 people in prisons right now. Under 14 years of Conservative rule, we haven't addressed this. And it's got to the stage now where excuses are being used by defence counsels, such as that their clients are victims of modern slavery. They're claiming that those working in the drug industry have been groomed, taken advantage of, used, manipulated, are in fear of death, that if they even mention the names of their masters, the pushers and dealers, they'll be killed. And this excuse is working, according to our source. The typical day for this gentleman is one of 8 to 9 individuals being brought before him. The individuals on this typical day were all the same colour. And guess what? It wasn't white. They were all given the same opportunity to put forward their case, and they all gave exactly the same excuse. All carrying knives, all saying that they were victims of these gangs who had taken control of them while they were only children, and they are involved in modern day slavery. Now, in some cases where prison sentences and custodial time has been passed, they may well only be doing 3 months instead of 12 months. Previously, you could be passed down 12-month sentence and you would get roughly 50% of that time. Now it's gone down to 3 months. And this is for very serious crimes indeed, such as muggings, carrying knives, and also using these knives. In certain instances from our source in the southeast, people have been sent and sentenced for 12 months and they end up doing a couple of weeks. And this is due to the overpopulation of our prisons. The same characters turn up time and time again. So it's not just shoplifting now. It's not just snatching watches. The Metropolitan Police have lost complete control of the city under Sir Mark Rowley, previously Cruiser Dick, and under the auspices of Sadiq Khan, the Labour London Mayor. Now, for this gentleman to get in touch with us in such a vociferous way and such a passionate way, he has reached out and said no one is talking about this on the mainstream. They're too scared to talk about this. He has actually been pulled out of retirement back into the sector because he has a reputation as someone who will take on these defence solicitors and representatives that come to him with such pathetic excuses as, my client is part of the Modern Slavery Act, he has been groomed, he was abused. All of these things are being used on a daily basis, on a cut and paste basis, and he's hearing them again and again. As we were saying before, the day in which very recently he's quoting to us, 8 people, all of the same ethnic group, used the same excuse, and the results will be more or less the same. There isn't enough room. They're claiming that they're being abused themselves. They're claiming that they are part of a slavery system, the modern day slavery system, and they're getting out. So the poor people out there, the victims of these crimes, have absolutely no help from the police. They have very little help now from the judicial system because our prisons are full and there are no plans to build any more prisons. With our open door immigration policy as well, the member of the judiciary we spoke to, our source, said that it's very difficult to get dental records, and it's also very difficult to prove that these people have come in through a grooming gang. It's difficult to prove, it's difficult to disprove. So they have that the burden of proof is on the magistrates' court or the youth courts, and it's almost impossible on certain occasions to come up with this stuff. Of course, this is all being pumped and promoted by the Home Office, who are not only opening the borders to all and sundry without decent background checks, they're actually getting these people off the hook time and time again. And as it was put to us, this is all under a Conservative government. This is from a former Conservative voter and member for decades, who's absolutely outraged at what successive prime ministers have done since David Cameron, Theresa May, Boris Johnson, Lincoln, you'll miss her, Liz Truss, and now World Economic Forum weasel Rishi Sunak. It's unacceptable. It's not good enough. And of course, the irony is the two-tier policing is actually going against anyone that would take matters into their own hands against these people. Not that we would suggest it, but if you're being attacked or assaulted, these are the options that will be open to you, that you can defend yourself using reasonable force. There are groups that are looking to start up in communities in the southeast of England who do patrols, who walk together, who take their dogs out at the same time, coordinate these manoeuvres, because the police just are not doing their jobs. There are so many no-go areas in London, of course. Brixton, Lewisham, Catford, Streatham, Mitcham. All of these places now are becoming no-go zones and very difficult. Canning Town is another one that we hear regularly from our herd immunity followers and viewers. If you have experience of this, or if you are in the judicial system, please get in touch with us. We appreciate it's very difficult to speak on these things because anonymity is essential. Your jobs are at risk, your pensions. The gentleman that got in touch with us is a very brave chap, but we cannot disclose his details just as of yet. We will in the future be doing interviews with him. And it's got to the point where people have to speak up. They have to do something about it. And for a former Conservative to push the narrative that this Conservative government are an absolute disgrace, fifth columnists, traitors to a man, that really tells you something. And unfortunately, this will continue on with Labour, of course, and Keir Starmer. Starmer is looking to reduce the number of police that we have on our streets. He's looking to reduce the effectiveness. But what is very worrying are the narratives being pushed now in extremism, what they view as extremism. People online, like ourselves, speaking out against these acts against the British people, where a judicial system has turned its back on the victims nearly altogether. A lot of people now don't bother phoning the police if they've been mugged or if their bikes have been stolen. Burglaries are being ignored. We're seeing the same thing being done in Scotland, where they're basically decriminalising burglary, bike theft, phone theft, and muggings. Only serious crime now is being taken seriously, but we wonder how long before that's wiped away and kicked into the long grass. All of these things are basically breaking down our society, breaking down our culture. The point was made to us that the guilty parties that came before him, or the alleged guilty parties, were all of the same demographic. We didn't prompt this from him. He came out with us. He came out with this in his own time, in his own way. We'll obviously be called racist for stating this, but facts are facts. If they were all white, we would have stated it. If they were all Jewish, we would have stated it. All Muslims, all Christians. But we cannot ignore these facts. The knife crime statistics are alarming themselves, predominantly black on black crime, albeit with the black population of the UK less than 5 to 6%. It's very, very difficult to say now. Anyone on the BBC ITV Channel 4, Talk TV, GB News will be slammed for making any of these comments. And it's not good enough and it's not acceptable, because on this trajectory, all we're going to see in this country are relentless persecutions of white men and women, predominantly white men, the indigenous population. It's even risque now to say indigenous population. This is where we're at in this country. You could go to any part of Asia or the third world or similar nations and say these things. You use the words indigenous and you get away with it, but you cannot do that now. It's far too dangerous. Where we go with this, one can only imagine, as perpetrators are given a free pass thanks to these diktats and legislations, all to do with human rights, all linked to the European Court of Human Rights, and we remain handcuffed to them without any prospect of being extricated from them. And it's a situation that worries us greatly here at Herd Immunity News. Get in touch with us with similar stories and anecdotes. It is very difficult for people who are working in law or the judiciary to put their head above the parapet and speak about modern day slavery, how this new excuse is being used to get habitual criminals off the hook and kept on the streets where the likes of us are attacked, abused, and even killed. Thank you for watching Herd Immunity News. We'll chat again soon. Bye-bye.